Each week, we welcome to our NfG stage one of our highly talented members or special guests with something designed to help you and your business. This week's speaker is no stranger to the spotlight, and as a frequent speaker on many podcasts and many stages, including the TED stage, we welcome him back to our own. He has become synonymous as a social entrepreneur, helping make notable impacts across the globe. And there are many that share his name, from a famous NBA basketballer, an actor, a pastor in the Midwest, to an antique store owner in Sussex, not far from Yadmala. But what makes our guest uniquely placed to speak here today? Well, let's consider the results that he has achieved within the business world, having proven himself as a successful businessman, taking what he knew from his time at HP, among many other places, to form the Results Corporation, before transitioning from TRC to offering a global form of TLC, in the form of the charitable organization B1G1. So there are many that share his name, but now even more that share his vision, demonstrating how the power of small can create something far bigger. We welcome via remote link to sunny Singapore, once again, Paul Dunn. Good evening, Paul.
That is not just the most recent introduction I've had, but it's the best one. Oh my goodness. I hope we've recorded this and I will actually pop that up in my CV. So thank you so much. Goodness knows how long you took to figure that one out, but I'm so glad you did. So thank you for that. Okay, now down the bottom of that screen, you will see some numbers. Since we last met here, by the way, I celebrated a birthday, and I decided that was in November, and I decided that birthdays should not be celebrated the way that I normally celebrate them, which is once a year. And I figured when you get to my age, you need to celebrate every year. So what happened, or every day, I should say. So what I did, I got a little app, it's called Dissonance, and I can now tell you, see that number down there? I am now, this is worth celebrating, 28,531 days old. Now, I realize that I've lost you all right now because you're dividing that number by 365 and you're figuring out that, 2000 was a leap year and everything else. But anyway, I like to say 28,531 days. So there you go. So you are working it out. I know you're working it out. I should not have done that, Richard. Anyway, you can use that for your next introduction, by the way. The app is called Dissonance. It's really cool. I think it was designed for alcoholics, actually, but you can actually make it your birthday and do it from there. Okay, so because we've got limited time, let's jump in. Make sure, by the way, as always, when I have the privilege of talking with you, you got some notes there, and there's some specific things that I want you to do on your notepad, if you would. We are going to be doing some drawing, and one of the things I want you to do really, really quickly is get a pad, turn it on its side, and draw 3 circles. And by the way, I've never presented this before, because one of the interesting things about getting to do this is you guys get me back so frequently, I'm going to keep thinking of new stuff to give you. And also, we're gonna use a triangle. So if you want to get ahead of the curve, then just pop those things in your notepad, and we will fill them in as we go. Now, before we get going, on my little introduction in the thing, I mentioned why I get up every morning. And just quickly, why I get up every morning is, excuse me, is to give business owners the more, let them create, I should say, more impact in their business and on our world than they have ever imagined. And with that in mind, and just to get our focus on, oh, by the way, Happy New Year, everybody. Just to get our focus on where we are right now, I want to show you a video that was produced by a wonderful B1G1 member. Her name is Carolyn Butler Madden, and all I need to do is share computer sound. Have a look at this and let me know in the chat after we watched it. Goes for about 50 seconds, how this resonates with you. Here we go.
What if business has not yet fulfilled its true potential? Is it possible that business's true purpose is to create a better society? You see, most of us want to live a meaningful life. It goes to a human truth that we want to do good. We just don't know how to go about it. And this is where business comes in. Business has the power, the scale, and the influence to create meaningful change in the world. Imagine business putting its resources, mind power, and energy into creating a better and more equitable society for all. A world where business provides homes to the homeless, food to the famished, vaccines to the vulnerable. A world where business regenerates the environment. Imagine how employees and customers would respond to those businesses, how emotionally invested they would be. Let's seize the opportunity to demonstrate the true and full potential of business to serve society's interests. Business as a force for good, brands and marketing driving profit through purpose, social purpose driving vitality in business, and profitability being the natural outcome, not the driver. Profit through purpose. Every one of us has the opportunity to act right now, whether it is as a business leader or influencer. So let's open our minds to the possibilities we can create together when businesses connect to a meaningful higher purpose.
There you go. Richard and Yamila, I know you're into these sorts of things. Let me know on the chat. Go on, give me a thumbs up. That was pretty cool, right? And it really sets the, because when I said Happy New Year, what I really meant to say was that Happy New Year, because this has to be a very different year for all of us. And it is all about what you see on the screen right there, meaningful higher purpose. And what we're going to do is take a little look at that, but I'm going to take a look at it in a different way than I've looked at it before. By the way, I just need to make sure that I've got the chat up here because we are going to do a fair bit of conversations up in the chat as well. So with that in mind, let's have a look at what this all means. And one of the things that is absolutely undeniable, right, is that our world has changed. And I think I shared this slide with some of you about 4 months ago, and it continues to change, of course, and it's changed big time, understatement of 2022. And because we are part of that world, I hope this is obvious for you, because that world has changed and it's changed so significantly, then the reality is that our businesses need a new story. And we need that new story right now to be in that world and play a part in that world. When I think of story, and I know I mentioned this to some of you last time, story is so powerful. It's inbuilt into our DNA. And so when I think of story, well, let's do it this way. There are various parts of story that I want you to look at. By the way, this is not how you tell stories. That's not what we're about today. So what we've got on the left-hand side of your screen, some people call it baggage, but let's call it history for now. Then right in the middle, right just about now, there's still that 2021 story. And what we're going to try and do today in a very limited time that we have is give you some ideas so that we can co-create that news story for you so that you, as you can say, create more impact in your business and on the world, on our world, than you ever thought possible. Now, just to make sure that we're in the right place, I mentioned the chat. Just put the word up in the chat if you're up for that. Go ahead. I want to see all of you putting it up. There you go. Look at that. Everyone. Oh, well done, John. Well done, John. Well done, Rachel. Wow, the chat is moving so fast. Well done, everybody. Okay, so what we're going to do is have a look at this thing around story. On the 6th of June last year, I got an email from a very lovely friend of mine. And in the middle of the email, she said, Paul, you may get something from this quote. And you can see who the quote was from. It was from Steve Jobs. And she said this, or the quote said this: the storyteller is the most powerful person in the world. And by the way, whilst you're looking at that, just bear in mind, we all have a story. All of us in the breakthrough rooms, we're telling part of that story. But again, what today is about is not how you tell it. So the storyteller is the most powerful person in the world, said Mr. Jobs. And then he went on to say this, which really is the core of what we want to talk about today. He said, the storyteller sets the vision, the values, and the agenda. And the thing that gives me goosebumps on what he said and makes my hair stand on end is for an entire generation yet to come. And when you realize that, by the way, you understand something about story, which I'll get into in a moment. Now, just let me sort out this whole difference between storyteller and something else. It is absolutely true that Steve Jobs was a magnificent storyteller. But what I would love you to understand in this short time that we have together is what he actually was a story creator. He was creating stories which enabled us to continue to tell our stories. And you might think, well, what's that got to do with me? What it's got to do with you that is that every one of us can change up our story so that we are changing up the story for the people that we're privileged to serve. For example, Alison with your back and all of those kind of things. And once you understand that, then you come to this realization that the story is about something bigger than you. And we'll get to that in just a moment, what we mean by bigger than you. But now let's take another look at a slightly different story. And we're going to come back to those 3 circles that I hope you've already drawn. On the right-hand side one, can we please write the word strategy? And what I'd love you to do around it is what I know I should do, okay? Because we all know what we should do. The problem is that sometimes we actually don't do. And so in the middle of all of that, if you would then put the word in the middle one, the word story, if you could do that, and we'll talk about the influence of that. And then on this other one, on the far left-hand side of your screen, just write the word state. By the way, one of the things that we all need to understand is the power of alliteration. And I know, Richard, you like that. I love it as well. And so alliteration is just stringing words together in a particular way. And so these are ST words, right? State, story, strategy. And when we do things this way, make it easy for our clients to understand. And again, here you see us using the power of 3. 3 is very, very powerful. So we've got state, story, and strategy. As I said, strategy is about what we need to do or what we know we should do. But the reality is, show me your hands if sometimes we know what we should do, but we don't actually do it. Show me your hands if, or am I the only one? Looks like Richard and I are the only ones in that, Richard. Okay, Chris is there as well. And here's the reason. And it's not because of the story of our business now, it's because of the story that we tell ourselves. And one of the things I thought that we might be interesting at this, in effect, this kickoff meeting at the first time of the year would be to take a look at that. And the way in which we tell the story depends upon the state. And I want to have a look at this thing called state. And to do that, I want you to look back at one of those triangles. And I want you to write 3 sides of the triangle. What state is all about, 3 things. First thing is physical. Richard asked me before, he said, Paul, do you still go running every morning? Yes, I do. Because I want to be in that physical, that best shape that I can be. Because I'm sure it influences our mind as well. Talking of influencing mind, the other thing around state is what are we focused on? Clarity is a great thing, and we need to have clarity of focus as opposed to chaos, right? And focus is really, really important. And I'm going to show you in a moment how we get that. And then very interesting, the languaging that we use also plays a part in that. Let me give you a very simple example of languaging. Sometimes we might say to our potential clients, we might say, well, if you do this and this and this, as opposed to when you do this and this. Languaging is very, very powerful. And one of the things we always need to be doing in languaging is speaking in present tense. But let me show you what I mean by, I'll show you how all of that comes together. And I'm going to ask you to put something in the chat as to whether you understand this. Here's a couple of words, cognitive dissonance. Put them in the chat, or alternatively, Richard, I imagine someone could actually open the mic up to you and tell us what cognitive dissonance means. Anybody got an idea on cognitive dissonance? If you have, you tell me, Richard, because I can't see all of the people there right now. Nope, no idea, says Andy. Okay, let me ask you a question. Have you ever, you've ever done something that, let's say you, for example, you set a goal to do something which was to lose weight or whatever it was, and then you did something that was absolutely against what it was that your brain was wanting you to do, right? Has any of us ever done that? By the way, I'm going to show you a way of fixing that in just a second. So what cognitive dissonance is where there is a difference. Oh, by the way, I also want you to look at the word called integrity. And by integrity, we don't mean truth or anything like that. What we mean is that our brain in particular, and many of you on the call would understand this far better than me, that our brain always wants to make sure that we are in integrity, right? We are in integrity, so all systems are heading the right way. And what happens is when there is a cognitive dissonance in place is when the desired action is different than the belief. And when that occurs, what happens is we have massive stress. There's all sorts of work on this now. And the brain is really working hard to bridge that gap. Now, with that in mind, I want to give you a gift for the new year. A friend of mine in the US, his name is Donald Miller. Some of you may know of Donald. He's the story brand guy. Today, he released that book, Hero on a Mission. I would love you to go get that book. And I know that when you get it today, he's going to send you a really nice 30-minute video, which makes it easier to get on this plane. So what actually happens is when we use the right languaging, when we eliminate cognitive dissonance, then what happens is the story that we tell ourselves becomes consistent with the strategy. And guess what? We do what we say we intend to do. Now, with that in mind, let's pull back for a second. And I know some of you know this particular part. Again, let's go back to where we were. Give me a thumbs up if this is going okay. Just give me a thumbs up, or am I going too fast, too slow? It's okay. It seems like we are going well. So let's just go back to this thing. And this is where we need to take a fairly big note. Thank you, Joe. So you remember we said that. And so if we put this on two sides of the screen, so over here on the left-hand side, we've got the old world, if you like. On the, was I pointing to the right then? Yes, I was. On the left-hand side of the screen, we've got the old world. On the right-hand side, we've got the new world that we are going to co-create in 2022. And so we're going to put down a few things as to where things were. And I want you to write them down as quickly as you can, if you would, because this is taking a note as to where we need to move from to. So, and I know this sounds really, really weird, that we need to move from being impact-driven, from being income-driven to impact-driven. That probably doesn't make sense to anyone. Stay tuned, it is going to make a lot of sense. In exactly the same way, this may not make any sense to us either. Oh my goodness, isn't profit important? Yes, of course it is. But the reality is that when you're on purpose, you will actually make more of it. So we need to be purpose-led, not profit-led. Profit-led is what got us to what you're seeing on the right-hand side of the left-hand side of the screen. We need to move from transacting, think of everything as a transaction, to think of everything as a belonging thing, where we're creating members, if you like, much like we've got happening here. We're creating running the company in such a way that our clients feel as though this is kind of a place where they can connect, where they can belong. Really, really important post-pandemic as well. We need to move from pushing. Jim, you know, I know you're onto this. We need to move for pushing, giving Mark Zuckerberg lots of, lots of money. And instead of that, work on attracting people. How much more sensible is it if we can attract people rather than push? We need to move away from that. And I'm going to show you some ways of doing it. On the left-hand side, you will see, I know this is going really quickly, you will see something that always is important, that's called value. But now in this new world, in 2022, values are so much more important. What you stand for is so much more important than what you do. Again, I know that sounds weird, but you're going to see examples of it in a second. We need to move from inputs, you know, like, for example, if you're an accountant, oh, I spent so much time on this, that is irrelevant. What we need to be thinking about always are the outcomes that we are providing to the clients we're privileged to serve. Every single one of us, our own income, if you like, is directly proportional to the value that we are creating for others. In other words, the outcomes that we are bringing, whether that's joy, whatever it is, right? So outcomes are the critical thing. Now, here, Richard and Jamila and everybody, is the two big ones. Here's where we need to move really quickly. We need to move from me. Remember I said the story is no longer about us. From me to we. You could not be in this world for the last 24 months and understand that we are all connected. Pandemic has, someone said today, this is called the pandemic of philanthropy. We are all connected, right? And so this is no longer about self. It is about something bigger than self. Now, I know there's a lot of stuff in there, and that's the subject of pretty much a 5-hour program that I do, but I just want you to get the sense of it. By the way, what is really interesting, you would know the COP26 thing. By the way, if you want a really wonderful illustration of this, go watch. It's on, you can get it up on YouTube. Just go BBC COP26, Sir David Attenborough. Sir David is the only guy older than me. Yes, he's older than 28,000 days, considerably, who I really value and respect. He's just amazing. And he said this: if working apart, we've done enough to destabilize our planet, surely to goodness, by working together, we're powerful enough to change that up. And that's one of the reasons why networking for good is so, so, so important. Now, let me put this really simply for you. On the left-hand side of your screen is how we determine or how we define businesses that are still operating in that space. We call them standard. Where we want you to move, and this is the co-creation, is into becoming a standout business, a standout business. And let me just give you the essence of what a standout business is. A standout business, again, you're going to see the alliteration. You move from standard to stand out because you stand for. You stand for something that is bigger than yourself. And when you do that, amazing things happen. For example, B1G1 members, and there are a lot of them here, well done everybody for doing that, then yes, they get the license to become a B1G1 business for good, but it turns out that that is actually really, really good for business as well. And maybe next time we get together, I'll show you some stats on all of that. But in any event, what we're doing here is we're moving from standard to stand out because you stand for something, and that something is, or part of that, is where you're setting the vision, the values, and the agenda for an entire generation yet to come. And one way of thinking of that is that we move to being impact driven. All of us here who are in B1G1 would understand, and in fact, right up front, when Adrian was talking about it, guess what Adrian was able to do? Show us all of the impacts that are being made. So once again, just to summarize all of this, what I want you to do is just watch this video now, perhaps with a different view than you had right at the beginning, because it really is a wonderful summary.
What if business has not yet fulfilled its true potential? Is it possible that business's true purpose is to create a better society? You see, most of us want to live a meaningful life. It goes to a human truth that we want to do good. We just don't know how to go about it. And this is where business comes in. Business has the power, the scale, and the influence to create meaningful change in the world. Imagine business putting its resources, mind power, and energy into creating a better and more equitable society for all. A world where business provides homes to the homeless, food to the famished, vaccines to the vulnerable. A world where business regenerates the environment. Imagine how employees and customers would respond to those businesses, how emotionally invested they would be. Let's seize the opportunity to demonstrate the true and full potential of business to serve society's interests. Business as a force for good, brands and marketing driving profit through purpose, social purpose driving vitality in business, and profitability being the natural outcome, not the driver. Profit through purpose. Every one of us has the opportunity to act right now, whether it is as a business leader or influencer. So let's open our minds to the possibilities we can create together when businesses connect to a meaningful higher purpose.
There we go, meaningful higher purpose. Again, I hope it made sense watching it again. I really, really do. Let's do this. And so, as I said, or as we said earlier on, this is something that's powerful, it's simple, and it's really, really impactful. And one of the reasons when Adrian said, can you come? Of course I wanted to come. Why? Because groups like NfG are really part of making this happen. The fact that you're here, the fact that you're part of this means that you're part of a community that really understands that, so that we really can make things happen at even more the speed than one of us alone can do. By the way, if you would like to see more on that, then one of the things you can do is you can also do a guided tour. For those of you who are not yet B1G1 members, you might want to go to this. It's a really interesting way of using video, by the way. Just go to the B1G, or just go bit.ly, the B1G1 tour. Okay, maybe I'll put that in the chat, or someone could put that in the chat for me. Bit.ly, the B1G1 tour in lowercase letters, and you'll be able to take your own little trip, your own little journey through what all of this means. Okay, so hopefully you'll be able to do that. So from me, Adrian, and everybody else, thank you so much for having me here so early in the new year. 28,000, whatever it was, 531 days in. I've had a blast doing some new stuff for you. I hope that it was valuable, and I really, really look forward to coming back again and keeping in touch with all of the wonderful things you're doing together. Thank you so much, everybody.